I think you'll like this book. It's called Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. But he never once tried it until this spring, said Mr. McGreely. This spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden. So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, yum, yum, yummy, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh vegetables. But one night when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat, muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence around his vegetable garden. There, he declared, no bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, spring hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Huh, he huffed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those puff tails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, dive, paddle, splash, 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 dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked, sawed and stacked, drilled and filled, and trapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it. They can't get under it. They can't go, they can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 stop. The 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them, and tippy, 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 pat, the bunnies hopped away. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. I beat the bunnies, he whooped, and he did a jiggly wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely, at last. Smacking his lips, he picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, And with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Those silly bunnies. I hope you liked that story.